Hey Lynn, I just wanted to do a video on this because I've tried several different brands, right? So one of the biggest things about the mushroom coffees is how they're growing the mushrooms. And a lot of them won't tell you how they're growing them, but what they're doing is they're force growing them in a bag. Instead of growing them on literally, because mushrooms grow on things that are decomposing, on something that's decomposing. And so they may not have all the same nutrients as something that you would get from the wild. And you can see in this photo here, none of these mushrooms have any color. They're just white and dull. And so you aren't going to get the same nutrients, regardless of what type of mushroom they say that is, as you would if it were growing in nature, or if they were growing it in a lab on the substrate that it would normally grow on. So some of the ones that I've tried have been absolutely horrible, and some of them have been fairly decent. There's one in particular that I really like. They're a Canadian-based company and they do a great job, but some people would never support their coffee because it is a MLM. But their coffee tastes great. Like you can make it into an espresso shot type thing, or you can have it as an 8-ounce cup of coffee. And either way, black, it's totally fine. And it tastes amazing. And it's really smooth. And I've never had anyone be disappointed with that coffee when I've given it to them. There's another one from another company, sorry, that Canadian company actually grows their mushrooms in a greenhouse on the substrate that they would naturally grow on. So decomposing trees are brought into the greenhouse. The soil from the forest is brought into the greenhouse, and it's changed over very rapidly so that the new seeds that are planted also have the opportunity to get the same nutrients. And when you go to their facility and you look, the mushrooms they're growing have a ton of color. And if you are one of their representatives, you can go and do that and tour the facility, and they'll show you and talk to you about it. One of the other companies that I've tried, I don't know how they grow their stuff. The coffee is grown, the mushrooms are grown in Australia, and it's a Australian based, again, it's an MLM, but I don't know how they grow it. It also has a decent flavor. I do find that I need to add just a tiny smidge of almond milk to it to make it drinkable. But it's still a decent coffee. And if you're a customer of that company, you don't have to represent their brand or anything like that. They also have travel rewards that they offer even for their customers. So you don't have to be a representative. They just offer these travel rewards as if you were a travel agent style rewards. There's the company Four Sigmatic, and they have an instant coffee that also has mushrooms in it. Also fairly decent, but what I've seen from Four Sigmatic, in even what my clients explain, is that it's everything from one batch is totally fine, and then the next batch of coffee that they get, the next box of coffee that they get, causes diarrhea. So the dose dependency is not there. I don't know how they're raising their coffee either. There's the company Rise. I cannot handle that taste at all. There are some people who say it's great. I gave away an entire bag of their coffee because it was horrible. So my thoughts on it are, there are medicinal mushrooms all around us, and something that a lot of people don't realize is that some of those mushrooms, when grown in their environment, have more nutrients than a lot of other things that they're getting, and they're easier to absorb. So for instance, shiitake mushrooms have more vitamin D in them than even fortified cow's milk. So if you're somebody who's lacking vitamin D, using shiitake mushrooms in everyday cooking could help you improve your vitamin D. Obviously, there's tons of research around turkey tail and the anti tumor attributes to it, right? And there's TED Talks about that and people working to decrease their tumors, etc. And then there's reishi, which is considered the king of all of the mushroom family, that helps people with cognitive health, that helps with anti-aging, it helps with joint health, all of the above. And there's many, many more that can be used and could be explored. But again, the mushroom coffee, the quality of the mushrooms matter, and that is totally dependent on the environment that they are grown in. So if you're having somebody forcefully grow mushrooms in 5 days in a plastic bag, they are not going to look like they do in nature. They're not going to have the same nutrient components, and therefore they may not be as good for you. And it may just be a branding thing that they're doing, and it may not actually be helpful. So transparency within a company, I believe, is important. And if you were to write their customer service and ask specifically, they may or may not tell you. I know that when I asked specifically Rise Coffee, I never got a response. So they may be more transparent about it now. I don't know. That was 3 years ago. I wouldn't go back to trying their coffee because I just didn't like the taste. And I know another brand that does grow their mushrooms in the substrate that they would normally grow in. So if I want a mushroom coffee, I'm just sticking with that. It's also the coffee that I travel with, for whatever that's worth. Some people love all the mushroom coffees, some people hate them, and it just depends on where you're at. The other thing about mushrooms in general is that if you go through something very big and you kind of destroy the whole immune system in the gut and all the microbiome in the gut, a lot of times a spore-based, mushroom-based probiotic can be the best way to reestablish that gut bacteria. And so eating mushrooms may be a way to also help do that.